Hello Capricorn, and welcome to your bi-weekly-ish reading for the new to full moon. This reading normally is about 5 to 8-ish minutes long for any of the moon readings that I do. This one's going to be a little bit longer because we have some notable astrology that is happening during this particular new to full moon phase. You might already know about it, but if not, I'm going to mention it. So it's going to be a little bit longer. We're pulling some extra cards a little bit more than I normally do for these readings because it just feels important to get some extra support. Why, do you ask? Why? Because we have that's on me for not concentrating. All right. That's what we have going on is the new moon with a solar eclipse, and we also have Mercury going retrograde. So definitely going to be a very different kind of waxing moon, new moon to full moon. So we'll talk about that in a moment. I also want to pull a couple of cards for some spiritual advice. So we're going to get some spiritual advice for the top card there. Look at all this night energy happening. All right. And then let's get some... Such a long deck, you guys. Some spiritual advice for this bottom card here. So we're going to get into this. We'll pull any additional cards if I feel like we really need to as we go forward in the reading. So again, this is a collective reading for Capricorn Sun or Capricorn Rising. If this message feels like it resonates, awesome, rad. If not, it's not your message this month. So if this is your sun sign, I would check out your rising sign instead, and see if that, resonates more. And if that doesn't resonate either, honestly, it's a collective reading. So if you want a very specific reading of what's up for you, I do personal one-to-one private readings. So you can book that down below. All right, so let's get into it. We're going to continue with using this deck to help us with directing the cards. Because it is a collective reading, I like to use these cards so that we can direct it to either a theme, like a major theme that we're dealing with, like the themes that we're working with, or to a specific area of life if it happens to be a house card. So interestingly enough, I think that all of the readings thus far have there have been 0 house cards. It's all been planets, which is super interesting. So what do we have showing up here? We have the sun card. I really love this card, you guys. It's so beautiful. But we have the sun card. So this is where we're going to direct the entire reading back to, is to this particular theme in your life, right? To help direct this. If my voice sounds scratchy, you guys, sorry, I'm getting over a cold. So when we're talking about the sun, we're talking about your vitality, your actual vitality and essence, right? A lot of people see this as the identity, as the who you are. I can say that that's maybe, I agree with some of that, but really this is about what revitalizes you, what nourishes you on a level where it has you feel golden glowing, like there's golden light pouring out of every single one of your pores. It's that warmth. It's what nourishes life on earth. It's what nourishes us. It's what brings the light of day, is what helps us to really see clearly and to understand clearly. Think about the difference between night and day, between moonlight and sunlight, and the different kinds of energies that there are. This is really about what brings us health, vitality, and exuberance in our life, right? Think about when you feel that way. That's what this particular card is about. So that's what we're really basing everything back to. This can also be about the hero's journey as well. One way to look at this in the chart is to see this is who we are wanting to embody in this life, and the journey towards embodying whatever that sign is for us. So, if you are a Capricorn sun, you could look at it that way. If you're a Capricorn rising, I would say I'd look at it just a little bit differently, right? So anyway, without getting too far into that, let's talk about what we have going on here. So why am I pulling a shadow card? that relates back to what we have going on for the astrology. So I'm just going to spend a couple of quick minutes talking about the astrology so that you understand what is going on and why I'm pulling these extra cards. So on April 19th at 9:13 p.m. Pacific time, we have the new moon solar eclipse. It's the beginning of eclipse season, and we have 2 eclipse seasons per year. This is our first one this year, and it's happening in Aries in tropical astrology, and it just so happens it's also happening in Aries for sidereal astrology. When that lines up like that, when it feels like those are two, like usually if you don't know much about that without going into it, sidereal and tropical signs will almost most of the time be one sign apart, right? They won't be sharing the same sign. Sometimes there's overlap and they are in the same sign. And when that happens, those are periods of time where I feel like that is the most congruent, aligned, and pure essence of that astrological energy coming through. So here we have that happening in both systems on the 19th. I feel like that's a punctuated experience and that we should definitely pay attention to that. The solar eclipse, this particular solar eclipse especially, is going to feel really activating. It'll be activating the area of your chart that contains Aries. If you're not sure where that is or what that's about, I'm going to be putting out a reel on my Instagram, so make sure you're following me there if you're curious about how to find like where in your chart, like which area of life in your chart this solar eclipse is going to be activating and bringing energy into, and also where the Mercury retrograde is going to be working with in your chart, like where you're going to be, what area of life you'll be working with that. Speaking of the Mercury retrograde, 2 days after the new moon solar eclipse, what we have happening is on the 21st at 1:35 a.m. Pacific, we have Mercury go retrograde, and it's going retrograde in Taurus in tropical astrology and in Aries in sidereal. So this is a lot of this Aries energy coming through. That is, Aries is combustible, right? It is that like just burst of energy forward, right? And it is a lot of energy. It is what typically in tropical astrology is the beginning of spring. It's a cardinal sign. It's the start of everything, right? So really interesting because that I feel like ties into the energy of the sun. The sun feels really good in Aries when it's in Aries. So we have this like vitality coming through. We have this energy that is pouring through, and it can be really activating. Now that sounds really lovely and great, and it can be. However, the reason why eclipses, people tend to be like, oh no, it's eclipse season, is because it does bring things in and it also ushers things out. And so it's the ushering out of things or the surprise of what is being brought in that can sometimes feel jarring and a little bit like I wasn't expecting that, or that's not what I felt like I was ready to let go of, kind of a thing, right? So that can feel a little bit challenging. With regard to the solar eclipse, right? The sun is being eclipsed. The light of the sun is being eclipsed, right? And so having that, I just love how the sun showed up for you inside of this whole thing. But the sun being eclipsed casts these shadows, right? Whenever the light is eclipsed, it casts shadows down. And so often during eclipse seasons, we can feel like the stirrings of like what's down deep beneath, the things that we typically don't pay attention to, like the skeletons in the closet, the shadow aspects of ourselves. We all have limiting beliefs. We all have shadowy aspects of ourselves. Even if you're a devout person that works with like, spirituality or personal growth, it's like we all have this. It's just part of our journey here while we're here on Earth, right? And so with that, I wanted to pull from my shadow deck and highlight one particular shadow aspect that could be really playing a part and coming forward. That is something that you can deal with proactively. I think that when we deal with energy, like when we get tarot readings, when we look at the chart and the transits and we know what's coming, we have an opportunity to work with the energy and to pivot, as opposed to being blindsided by it. So I wanted to highlight something. Obviously, this isn't going to hit for every single Capricorn rising or Capricorn sun sign. So again, if this is your message, you'll know it. It'll feel congruent and like resonant. And if not, again, check out your other sign and or get a personal reading. So let's dive into this first, and then we'll continue on and talk about some of the rest of this. So really quickly, let's get into the temple of my body, right? And so I like how this relates back to your vitality. I think this is definitely speaking to your physical vitality and speaking to like what it is that you actually need to be paying attention to with regard to like, how are you treating your temple, right? When we talk about the body being a temple, it's our vehicle to get through life. It's what allows us to experience and interact with this world, right? And so taking care of it is of the utmost importance, and we typically kind of like take advantage of it. And this is a time where I feel like you need to be paying attention to your health in some way, paying attention to what are you ingesting, and like, you know, what kinds of foods are you consuming too many substances perhaps, like and not to say I'm not a hater on like substances, by the way, you guys. Like, I know that there's a lot of stuff out there with people who are just really high and mighty about that, and I disagree with that. I think that we can enjoy different substances and libations, for instance, like alcohol or whatever, in ways that are not shadowy. But if you know that you're overdoing something, then it's time to look at it, right? That's totally human, is to like take a look at where you might be leaning on things, right? Are you taking care of your basics, getting enough water, getting enough sleep, you know, or are you really running yourself to the ground, even overworking to the point of like burning the candle at both ends and like totally exhausting your adrenals? So I really feel like that's pretty clear. I think it's time to pay attention to how you are treating your body and to make any adjustments that feel necessary. With the spiritual advice that we have coming through, we have the Knight of Wands. I really love that this is coming through for you in this particular position with regard to this, because when we think of like Knight of Wands, there's always something I think of in particular with Knight of Wands. We won't mention that here. Let's stay on task here. Okay. So when we're thinking of Knight of Wands, right? Like, this is, all of the knights are about action, right? They're about forward movement, and all of the knights take action in different ways. They're all taking action in different ways. The Knight of Wands is definitely that fiery kind of energy. Interesting, because we have the fiery kind of energy with the sun. We have it going to be eclipsing in Aries, which is more fire. And then we have the Knight of Wands showing up, and so we have more fire showing up. So I'm feeling like your vitality is really needing to be addressed. Like, your vitality feels like there's a dampening that has happened, maybe a suppression of...
I'm not sure I understand.
That's Siri. Sorry, guys. Feeling like maybe you've been feeling under the weather, or experiencing like slight, you know, situational depression, or feeling like really pressurized, or, you know, just kind of dampened or muted or not quite like alive, right? And so this is like the Knight of Wands rides forward into like he takes action, and I would say balance this. Like, make sure, like, part of the message that I'm getting that's really coming through strongly, that's like, it's like basically like knocking at me to say, is that especially during this particular time, because we have Mercury retrograde, it's not a time to like, normally the Knight of Wands is like, I will rush in first, think later, right? And while that energy can be really useful in some situations, right, this is more like, take action towards the things that like light you up, that make you feel passionate, that make you feel alive, right? That have you come alive and like bring that light, that fire, that golden warmth. Like, imagine this golden warmth shining down on this particular card, on this woman here, right? And it's just like, suddenly it goes from all these gray tones to just like golden light just shining and like flooding the entire card, right? So moving towards that. However, make sure that, because during this particular phase that we're going through, we're going to have Mercury retrograde, that's just about slowing things down. People are too scared of Mercury retrograde. It doesn't mean you can't take action. It just means that if you can put certain things off until after the retrograde, like signing contracts, it's, you know, I would say if you can, it's then fine. But there's sometimes in life where you just can't avoid certain things needing to happen when they need to happen. And so moving towards your vitality is not something I would say wait and hold off on. I'd say, yeah, move in that direction, take action. However, it's slow it down, pause, pause before you do that thing that feels like you feel passionate about, that you feel excited about, that lights you up. Make sure that you're checking all of like the details about it to make sure that everything's like checks out before you go forward, right? Don't be sloppy. Don't trip over yourself. It reminds me of like when someone just like runs forward and like the top half of their body is going faster than the bottom half of their body and they trip over themselves and they fall. It's like that kind of energy. So you want to just kind of like, you can run, but like at a pace where like you're in alignment instead of tripping over yourself, if that makes sense. I'm just like, I have this picture in my mind about that. So also, while we're taking a look at how you can move forward, like we're still working with, even though we have this, beginning of eclipse season and we have Mercury retrograde happening, it's still waxing energy, right? It's still the momentum of building and like seeding and building things like in this phase. It's just that we're working with it differently than we would normally work with it, right? So you want to make sure that you are factoring these things in. So one of the things that I would say is this is not a time that is recommended for doing like manifestation or vision boards or setting intentions and doing your normal new moon things that you do, whether you do like ceremonies or rituals or like whatever it is that you do. This is not the time. When the light is being eclipsed like that, right? During the eclipses, when the light is being eclipsed like that, it creates chaotic energy. Without going into so much detail, like it creates this chaotic energy. Think about that, how that happens, right? It eclipses, and that eclipsing creates an energy that is not typically there. It's not night, it's not day, right? It's eclipsing that energy, and it creates this kind of clash where things become very chaotic. And the thing about chaotic energy is like you cannot control chaos. No one can control chaos. That's why it's called chaos. So better to kind of in this particular phase, when the new moon and the solar eclipse happens, I would just kind of like chill out, mellow, like just like sit back and just watch how things unfold versus putting forth your intentions and trying to force it through at this particular time. And then working with really messy energies where like, if you set those intentions, you don't know which way it's going to go floppy and sideways, right? So it's not really a time for that. I'd say on the safer side, if you still want to do like some kind of ritual or like setting intentions, I would say wait until like maybe the weekend. I know that's going to be after Mercury goes retrograde, so you might feel hesitant about that. But again, don't be afraid of Mercury retrograde. If you're doing something on the weekend, just make sure you look over your intentions and it's well worded. It's what you really intend, what you really want. That's all it is. Just revisit, revise it, review it, make sure that what you're doing with your intentions, with the symbology of your ritual or whatever it is, feels like it's all on point, right? So you can still work with it, right? Now, regardless, we're still working with that waxing energy. So what is being pointed out for you in terms of like what to focus on putting your time, energy, attention into seeding and growing during this waxing phase? Again, we're working with it differently, but we can still work with it. So what we have showing up here is the Knight of Swords. Don't you love this card, you guys? I love this card. So we have the Knight of Swords, again, with another knight, right? And knights, like I said, are about action. They just take action in different ways. I feel like for you, so the swords, let's just start there. The swords have to do with communication, with our thoughts, with our beliefs, and also with staying true. One of the big themes with the swords is also about staying true to yourself, right? And so I feel like with the Knight of Swords, Knight of Swords is also about taking action with these things and not being too swift about it. So I think there are communications that need to happen. I think there are conversations that need to be had, whether that is with, let's say, a partner or a coworker or like business partner or romantic or interest or whatever, friendships. Like, I feel like there are some beliefs to examine and there are some conversations that you know for yourself need to actually be had so that you can create create something that feels really grounded and aligned. And the reason that I say that is because the spiritual advice that comes with that is the Ace of Coins. And the Ace of Coins is really, I love that. Are you guys into these kinds of cards? I am. The Ace of Coins is really about like these new, like, just know that you're getting assistance from whatever you call it, the universe, spirit, whatever you want to call it, your guides, your guardians, whatever, that you are getting assistance. That's what the aces do. They bring in assistance from other realms into our physical world for us to create, especially with something like the coins. The coins are that earth quality. It's about groundedness. It's about the things that we value. It's about what's tangible, about what we're materializing, what we're creating, what we're building in this world, right? And so, you know, with your spiritual advice showing that you're getting assistance that's coming through, and you've got to trust that you have the solutions are coming through. And what needs to happen is like this widening of your lens, of your perspective, so that you can recognize the opportunities or the messages that are coming through to help and assist you with creating and building that stability, or that whatever it is that you're trying to build and create. Again, like we're talking about waxing, building, creating, but we're also talking about the vitality, bringing it back to this, right? This is definitely feels like it's connected to your vitality, is whatever it is that you're concentrated on building, right? And I think that part of that is having conversations, having communication, having it be clear. Now, obviously with Mercury retrograde, depending on where it's hitting in your chart, in what your chart actually looks like, for some people, the Mercury retrogrades, some affect them less than others, or not at all, and some of them affect them a lot more. Like I have a friend that she's going through really getting hit by it like early, like feeling it in the shadow, and that's like what's going on with her chart, but not for me, right? So that's just an example, but like there are some communications and things that need to be had. I feel like focusing on clearing those things out and like opening those doors to have those conversations, or to examine your personal beliefs that need to be examined. I feel like taking action in these ways is going to help with like creating more spaciousness, more clarity, right? That's also about clarity. And that helps to, when we have that spaciousness and clarity, it widens our perspective and our perception, because we're not being like held by so much energy and things that we need to focus on and blinded by all of these different things. When we clear certain things out and we open the door to like talk, like, do you know when, like, think about the last time that you had a conversation that was like, you just kept putting it off, and then you had the conversation, you're like, oh, I feel so much better. Like, actually, that wasn't as like whatever that I thought it was gonna be, and I feel so much more like I have more energy available to me. It's like that. So it widens your perception, so you're able to really like see what's coming through to help you build what it is that you want. And this, I think, is going to feed like that forward movement, and that building with this is going to help you feel into more of that warmth and glow and vitality that you're wanting to feel. So this is a long enough reading. Definitely, if you want to get more of a picture and you want more information, check out your April reading. I'll have that up on the screen. Thanks for being here. And definitely subscribe if you haven't. Hit that notification bell and hit the like. It definitely helps me as I'm building this channel. And I have some cool stuff on the horizon later on this year that I'm going to be bringing more content with. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thanks. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.